Morning traders, happy Thursday. Today's date is May 21st, currently 8:29 a.m. Los Angeles time, 11:29 New York. Apologize for the late start. We are once again having trouble starting the vertical stream, so we have the vertical and horizontal stream live. So after some A/B testing, we finally got it up and running, so here we are. No, it's a late start, but we'll do better tomorrow morning. Let's see, so we got all that. This is what the heat map currently looks like for the stock market. Oh, one more thing too. If you happen to be watching these streams and they're already recorded and uploaded, if you want to get a summary of the entire stream, there is going to be a button within the YouTube app to summarize the video. So you could quickly jump to any of the topics or any of the discussions we have here on the stream, so you don't have to watch the entire 2 to 3 hour stream that we're going to be having today. So feel free to use Google, YouTube's Gemini feature to summarize this stream, so you could jump from topic to topic. With that said, let's get started. I just want to start with playing the TikTok short that we put up last week on my wife's channel at Live Laugh Hodl. So I'm going to just play that, and that's going to give us the breakdown for the levels for Tesla. I'm going to go full screen on this. Here are the expected moves on Tesla for the week of May 18, 2026. Very quickly, if you caught last week's short, we expected price to trade within this Monday range of 417 to 440. Price pulled back to this triple confluence zone on the 15-minute chart, the 50 EMA, the previous day's fair value gap, as well as a Fibonacci pivot zone for a $22 gain. Moving on to next week's levels, we have the following price ranges for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday expiration. Check the description for more details. I went ahead and drew these levels to prepare for the upcoming week. I stream on Thursdays and Fridays if you want to check me out. I do provide scalp ideas and swing trade ideas using opening range, Fibonacci, volume profile, as well as pivot levels. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Have a good one. Thank you. So whenever I drop a short, it's typically going to be on weekends. I'll try to do it on tomorrow after market. But follow my wife at Live Laugh Hodl. I don't know why I'm always messing that up, on TikTok, or go on my Crypto Crystal Ball channel for that YouTube short. Okay, so let's bring up the charts. Not that one. And let's bring up my drawings. So this was something that you saw in that short. I did add some new levels as the week progressed with the updated option ranges for Wednesday and Friday. So when Monday closed, I added levels for the Wednesday expiration as well as the Friday expiration. I know it may seem a little bit jumbled at first, but once I zoom in, shouldn't be too much of a problem. But these are, just me journaling the levels to see how price reacted to the updated option ranges as each day progressed throughout this week. But if you could see right over here, we have these main boxes for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to provide the option ranges for this week. So if I just remove the drawings, when we closed on Friday, we were already below. Let me go to the 15 actually. We were already below the 50 EMA, and then we crossed the 200 last Friday. So obviously the sentiment and bias moving into Monday this week was to go short and negative. Price ended up going down lower to this 20 daily EMA cloud. And if I quickly recall The drawings, it did go below the 410.89 range, put some options traders in hot water. Ended up closing near this 20 EMA cloud. I do have this big box that I drew right here, which is a Fibonacci extension buy zone for the week. So whenever this taps, especially if it's the initial tap, we get a price reaction here. So looking into Monday, and I'll just go drill down to the 1 minute chart very quickly. So I was at work when this happened. I still work a 9 to 5. Um, and the whole purpose of this channel is to document our journey as we slowly become full-time traders. Right? And the dream is to quit the 9 to 5. In any case, I did this trade while I was at work. We knew that we were coming into money. We knew that this was a Fibonacci buy level zone with the 20 EMA cloud near there. Um, price went back up above the 50 EMA. Sure if I was on the 1 minute or the 15-second, but basically we had RSI moving, positively to overbought to indicate momentum going up. Once we had price go above the 50 EMA, pull back to the 50 EMA for support, and then for a retest to go back up. This was a three to four risk reward trade. And mind you, forgot to mention this is Tesla. So this was a 3-to-1 trade on Tesla, 3.41 to be exact. And obviously, it went up to the 200 EMA on the 1 minute chart. If I bring up the daily pivots, and I'll remove the drawings, you can see that price exceeded the S3 of the Fibonacci pivots. And just know that we are in extreme levels when price found itself over here. If I turn on the volume profile that for each day, and when we went down here, we were near value area low. I'm not sure what it was at the time. I would have to turn on the developing value area. Developing point of control. Yeah, so we fell out of value and worked our way up to the 200 EMA. All right, so that's that for Monday. Did close near the 20 EMA cloud. And then Tuesday, we had a huge gap down. Well, not huge, but just, relatively speaking, a big gap down. We found ourselves near the S2 and S3 zone. If I do some fib work very quickly, we're gonna see how that was arranged for us to go long. So just down to 5. And I know it's gonna be hard to see because I already have existing drawings there. But we knew this was going to be a fib extension buys. Plus, we knew that this was going to be a Fibonacci extension buy zone, ultimately getting near the 618 area and the S3 confluence. Could have easily been a long. We didn't quite tap the 200 EMA cloud in red right over here, but we knew that anyone who was wanting to go long was preparing for these levels to do so. We had bullish divergence, and I believe my RSI is anchored to the 15-minute chart. So we were already getting bullish divergence where price was moving down and then RSI was moving up on the 15-minute chart. That would have been an easy entry to go long and simply just looking to retest go long. We fell outside of value and we're simply looking for a retest of the value area high, which it hit right there, right? So then on Wednesday's price action, um, actually, let me take a step back. With Tuesday's price action, price found itself above the 50 EMA, closed above the 50 EMA on the 5-minute chart, and then eventually made its way back to Monday's point of control in orange right over here. So once again, the value of using volume profile is to be aware of the value areas for each day, as well as the point of control. And the point of control are used as magnets for price. So if you had done a swing trade on Tesla and you knew that this was an area to go long, it didn't have to be perfect depending on your risk management and your stop levels and whatnot. But if you were swing trading, like let's say on long dated option, you could have easily bought when price was near here and then sell when price either hit the 200 EMA or Monday's point of control, however you want to look at it. So I use combinations of EMAs, volume profile, uh, pivot levels, as well as just drawing with the Fibonacci tool. So let's just say you got in here, you aimed for point of control, and you were basically out right at Wednesday's open. That was a gain of $13.54. All right, let me remove these fibs. And I'll just turn off the pivots. So with Wednesday's price action, price held above the 50 EMA on the 5-minute chart. So if you even just had moving averages on your chart, right? The trend was to go long, and if you wanted to trade with the trend, all you had to do was start looking for dips. So there was some manipulation at the beginning. We didn't quite fill the gap, but price found itself above the 200 EMA and held. And then the idea was to follow the trend if you're a trend trend following trader, and to go long at the dips. We had very tight price action, just slowly grinding up until literally the last 5 minutes of yesterday, where we saw this big candle right over here breaking through this 800 EMA that I have on here. So we had basically a cross of the 50 and 200 EMA at 1020. We saw that price pulled back to the 50 EMA. If you were looking to go long, this was your signal to go long here and basically put your stop behind previous structure. And that would have been, let's see, if you were just aiming even just for the 800 EMA, that was a 5-to-1 trade. Or if you wanted to put your stop below that candle, and then if we coupled with some Fibonacci extensions, your target could have been the 618 right here, which would have filled you on the following day. And that would have been a 2.7 risk to reward ratio. So now bringing ourselves up to speed with, let me play my music. So bringing ourselves up to speed with today's price action, easily we saw a gap up. If we still have the opening range from yesterday's levels, you could see that price hit the 1618. And based on my levels that I've been drawing for the option expirations as the days progressed, I mean, you see this opening candle, you can't make this up. First 5 minutes of the trading day, it traded within this price range of that level and that level that I drew right here. So 422.46 to 413, it almost basically filled this entire space on this 5-minute candle. So gap up, filled the gap, and here we are having the 50 EMA hold near current price. So Thursday gap up, we filled the gap, and now we're currently holding on the above the 50 EMA on the 5-minute chart. And then let's take a look at volume profile. So once again, I'll turn off the drawings. If you use volume profile, point of control from previous days is used as a magnet for price. So we can see we have Friday, May 15's point of control. This morning it was tapped, obviously went a little bit higher and then pulled back from there. So if you were swing trading this and not day trading, if you got in on a Tuesday with options or held stock, and if you were looking to get out at much higher targets, aiming for this point of control up here at 424, that's a $28 gain. So the point I'm trying to make here is, if you use volume profile, or if you want to learn about it, there's plenty of content online. If you want me to create some type of short or YouTube video covering, how I trade any of these indicators, either EMAs, volume profile, pivots, or how to use the Fibonacci tool, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll be able to fulfill that request if I get a comment about that. All right, so now that we brought ourselves back up to speed, I'm going to draw the fibs of this morning's opening range, and typically that would be either the 15, the 30, or the 1 hour. Obviously, this is in hindsight, but once price opened near, let's see, 422.35, and obviously it was a gap up, the idea was to prepare for a potential gap fill, which we saw at 7 a.m. If we had our extended hours on, so this is pre-market on Tesla, you can see that we are already gapping up. We held this 50 EMA until, it broke down. So if you had your extended hours on and you have these EMAs, price crossed and then closed below this 50 EMA, and that was a moving average cross to trade lower. And if we even just drew the 5-minute, you could see that anyone who went short up here, or when we crossed, basically we have to go drill down to 1 minute to be able to see this, but they took target at the 618, which is at the 200 EMA, and went lower to the 100%. So let's go down to the 1 minute very quickly. So if you're on the 1 minute and you're looking for an EMA cross of the 50 EMA, or price to cross the 200, right, to signify a short, you could have shorted, right, possibly at this level after this candle, and then maybe the stop at the 50 EMA, and then you target the 618. That was a 2.5 to 1 trade. And if your target was at the 100% level, that was a 3.7 to 1 trade. And depending on how you want to manage your stop, you could have just put it to break even, or perhaps just move your stop along this 50 EMA. So either one, if you had your target at the 100% or you had your stop at the 50 EMA, it would have been around this price level, 415 to Yeah, 415.09 to 415.70. So that would have been the short trade for this morning. Right. I'll just quickly remove this. Let's turn on the pivots for the day. You can see that price clearly bounced off of this pivot line. And if there was any sign for us to look for any reversals, we look at the RSI. We knew that this was an inflection point and where traders had to make a decision whether or not price was going to bounce off this pivot, either to buy or to short. So it looks like it held. We're looking for momentum to move up with RSI or stochastic. And we're still on the 1 minute chart. So we saw price pull back lower, went up, retested, made a higher low, and it quickly, jigsawed until, excuse me, this channel used to not play commercials. Okay, so if you're on the 1 minute chart, you could have been DCAing into here into a position to aim for the 200 EMA or 800. And better yet, if we have the volume profile, let me turn that off. Oh, there you go. So price did pull back. Once again, the importance of having volume profile on your chart. Price pulled back and reversed from yesterday's point of control. Just another, way to illustrate, price just basically I know I'm going on a tangent here, but it'd probably be easier if I just took a screenshot and drew on that. Yeah, so basically this was, I believe, Tuesday's price action, right? We saw price meander around here, hit this point of control, and then hit last week's point of control, right? So that would have been easy trades to take, and you have your money made for the week, right? If you went long right there. Yeah, so those could have been easy 2 swing trade ideas if you were focusing on just Tesla. And primarily, I just look at Tesla because I'm familiar with the price action. And depending on, how active you are as a trader or technical analyst, create your own watch list. Create a core set of stocks or cryptos or assets that you know how it moves on price ranges based on your indicators. For me, I'm super comfortable with Tesla. And, based on my indicator set of what I use, gives me, high confidence on how Tesla's going to react in certain areas. So find your core stocks or core cryptos or assets to focus on because each stock and crypto asset has its own personality. And you want to be able to know how it moves depending on what kind of indicators you have on your screen and how it reacts to them for you to make trade decisions. Price hit yesterday's point of control. That was a very strong buy. It fell back into yesterday's value area, which at 414.25, and then hit the point of control, use that as support, and is moving higher. So if you're a dip buyer like me and a counter trend trader and contrarian trader, I like looking for reversals, and obviously this was a reversal point to go long. If you decided to go long right at the retest of today's value area low, and you put a tight stop to the point of control, consider after we saw that bounce off the point of control, right? Price bounced up, pulled back, which is the pivot point for the day. You go long at the pivot point, you put your stop below previous structure. Obviously price held. And then if you aimed even just for this 200 EMA, that close to a 3-to-1 trade, right? And if you aim for, let's see, believe, yeah, pretty much hit previous day's highs. Aim for previous day's highs. That's a 6-to-1 trade. Right? There's plenty of opportunities, depending on where you look. And if this happens to go back to value area high for the day, that is a 9-to-6 trade. So obviously you want to be managing your stops as price moves into profit. On the 1-minute chart, we see the 50 EMA, meander between the 200 EMA, but now we see that the market has selected a direction to go. In this case, it's up. 50 EMA is above the 200. We're looking to go long on pullbacks. Another trade idea. Now that, we see this candle pull back to point of control and then basically explode back right up above these EMAs. The retest of this 200 EMA would have been a good long. And then you put your stop below this candle at 415 or even much lower of this wick. And then aim for retest of previous highs. That's a 1.7 trade, depending on where you put your stop. You could even put it at the open of that candle or point of control. And that could be a 3-to-1 trade that's currently happening right now. If we saw this in real time and took those trades, of course. So the point of these streams, and I stream Thursdays and Fridays with a video upload or video short upload on the weekends to provide the option ranges. Now, I'm not using options currently. I use the option ranges to give me the price levels to look for reversals. And I like either scalping the stock or, buying just a few options to do a swing trade. Because I still work a 9-to-5, my wife still works a 9-to-5, and this is really us just documenting our journey to become full-time traders. Something that, if anyone who's viewing this, that, to aspire to, especially if you, want to find financial freedom through trading, or if you just find technical analysis interesting, it stimulates you intellectually, or maybe you just like the price action, right? You're a dopamine junkie like I am. Just looking at all these potential trades to take and potential gains, right? Obviously, there's always going to be losses, but we want to keep that to a minimal. We want to place stops, follow your risk management rules. Never risk more money than you can afford to lose. And this is all for educational purposes, entertainment purposes. So if you like what we do, like and subscribe. Keep up to date with the channel. We're gonna have we have some things planned out for the next month, and let's see, how, what kind of reception we get with the viewers. We got quite a lot of views on TikTok for the YouTube short this past week. We don't get a lot of viewers on the live stream, and I know it's a long stream, like maybe 3 hours plus. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, if you happen to be seeing this recording of the live stream, click on the summary button. using Gemini's AI or YouTube's AI of Gemini to summarize the content and take you quickly to the chapters throughout this stream. All right, so that's it for Tesla. I know I talk a lot about Tesla because that's kind of like my bread and butter. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Move my drawings. Let's remove the volume profile and let's remove the pivots. So we're currently on a 4-hour chart. If you track Bitcoin, you knew that this was a 200 EMA resistance that was above price. It's been hitting it for the past 2 weeks. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit, sold off. And this is basically the pullback on a bigger time frame. We saw momentum and strength going down. If you use MACD, we saw price just going lower. Or excuse me, the oscillator was moving lower. Now we're kind of like in a make or break situation with Bitcoin now on the 4-hour chart. I have a cluster of all these EMA clouds, which are basically anchored to the daily time frame. So if I switch to the daily time frame, you're going to see that the moving averages stay the same. So we have the 200 EMA cloud up here on the daily time frame. We have 20, the 100, and I believe this is 89. Yeah, and if I drill down back to the 4-hour, you'll see that the EMA clouds still stay the same. Then even more so if I go down to like a 5-minute, you'll see how those daily EMAs look like on a 5-minute time frame to basically show us these important levels. And definitely you want to look at daily time frame EMAs because as you can see, if you're trading this intraday on a 5-minute chart, you're already aware that, you know, this was a 200 EMA and we were basically, you have to look for fakeouts. And this was an obvious fakeout. We didn't get any strong closes above the 200. There's a 20 EMA bounce right here. So this was a good area to have gone long on Bitcoin. If you saw this. And then after we broke support, after it hit this 200 EMA once again, and that was the third touch of the 200 EMA cloud, we went lower. And this is where we currently are. Let me turn on the pivots. Price hit the S1 and use that as support. We're currently moving long. We drew a diagonal trend line. You know, we broke that diagonal resistance. So maybe on one more pullback, a potential long.
Leave no one behind.
And then let's switch these. I don't day trade Bitcoin. I could. I used to do it way back when. I mean, last bull cycle I was. But mainly what I'm using Bitcoin now is to just DCA into longer term bags for the future. So I've been DCAing throughout these levels throughout this past week. All right, so let's take a look at the weekly levels, the pivot weekly levels. So other than knowing that this was a cluster of EMA clouds here to be used as potential support, you know, we have this S1 on the weekly pivot as support as well. Now we're kind of like in this big decision zone for Bitcoin. it's kind of ping-ponging up and down between all these EMAs, the 100, the 50, and 20. So either tomorrow or this weekend, it's got to make a decision to either break lower, because these EMAs can easily be resistance or support. So if price breaks lower, it's going to use 76,000 as resistance. And if we break higher, we're going to be using this 20 EMA cloud, about 78,500 as support. So we're kind of like in this. Yeah, these are drawings from last week, by the way. I already mentioned this in previous streams, that Bitcoin was making this pattern. Yeah, be aware that we are in a area where EMAs on the daily time frame are pretty much constricting right now, and we have to wait for price to break up above 78,400 or go below 76,000. All right, what else is on the menu? The crypto bubbles. Looks like Hype Coin is up 16.6%. I haven't looked at Hype Coin on this channel, so we'll just take a quick look at it and do this live. Wow. Going a bigger time frame. Oh, wow. Oh, we're making brand new highs on Hypecoin. Draw some fibs. This is an obvious high. Let's look for an obvious low. Let's just do this one right there. Wow. We're going in a basically no man's land. So for potential targets to take would be at $69 if you're in Hypecoin. Or you could just ride this until the bull cycle or next bull cycle ends. Know your time horizon. I wasn't tracking Hype, so I wouldn't have known to either go long or short on this. But you can see, just using the EMAs, that things were building up for Hype when the 20 EMA crossed above all these longer term EMAs. And if we take a look at MACD, we got a midline rejection right here. So that's pretty strong in the continuation of a trend. So this was the obvious reversal. Yeah. Well, that's that for Hype. Let's talk about Nvidia, because they just had their earnings. I don't cover Nvidia a lot, or track its option price ranges. If that's something you want to see on this channel, feel free to leave a comment and I'll begin that process. But let's remove any existing drawings. Any drawings on here? Yeah, we'll remove those. All right, we're on a 15-minute chart. And bro, how many commercials does this channel have? Okay. Obviously, Nvidia, one of those stocks you just got to buy and hold, right? But if you're A day trader and swing trader, you know, all you gotta do is follow the trend, wait for price to react at certain levels. In this case, the 200 EMA, looking for EMA crosses to go along. If I show the weekly pivots on here, even just the monthly, you can make these huge swing trades. Right? So even looking for the month of May, we have the monthly pivots here. So in April, price action exceeded the R3 for the month, pulled back to the monthly pivot, and also went into this 20 EMA cloud. How beautiful is that? Yeah, so basically this, you know, that zone right there. That was your monthly money-making trade of the month on Nvidia. All right. And let's do some live fib work here. I'm going to take last month's low, last month's high. Just quickly reverse that. And as you can see, we pulled into the 38 to 50% zone. And this is what they call like in terms of waves. I don't do too much, but an ABC pattern. This could go to 245. Based on this move, because price went up, pulled back to the 38.2 zone, which is pretty strong for it's basically a small pullback on a bigger time frame when it goes to the 38.2. Use the 20 EMA to bounce and move higher. We're looking for a target of 245 for longer term swings, of course, longer term targets. All right, so that's the long term. And then let's just switch back to pivots, weekly pivots. And then I'm just going to do this month's low and this month's high. Actually, very quickly, let's just look at the pivot, Fibonacci. So obviously they just had earnings yesterday. It was positive. Surprise. So you have a 6.52% on earnings. Surprise 2.71 billion. I'm not much of an earnings guy or look into the news too much. My style is just basically just almost 100% TA and just see how the market reacts based on certain levels. So in my opinion, things are already priced in the market. There's always going to be someone that knows something with insider trading, big execs or big players that you know, hear of rumors, right? So it's buy the rumor, sell the news. Obviously, they bought on May 19th and sold the news when we have, even though it's positive earnings, you'll never know what's going to happen, what the market does, whether it decides to sell it off on good news, buy it on good news. It's not 1 + 1 does not equal 2 in the stock market sometimes. Okay. So we're looking for a pullback to the 50 EMA, 215, and potentially this 20 EMA, basically the 215 level, if you're looking for continuation to go long. Wait for a pullback to 215 and then play that bounce. So something like this, whenever it hits that. And then you could just look for a simple retest of the highs. And that could be, if that does happen, that is a 10% gain for 2150. All right. So that's all long-term big picture. Now let's get our hands dirty with the smaller time frames. I'm going to switch the pivots now to the daily.
They call her a fighter.
So, if you haven't picked up on it already, I like for stocks that I don't normally track or assets I don't normally track, I start from a bigger time frame. Look at major levels based on those daily or weekly time frames, get an idea of what's happening, and then slowly drill down to the intraday levels. So now, let me take a step back actually. Let's take a look at the weekly pivots, if we didn't do that already. Yeah, so we opened up this week around the let's just say 230 level, and went below the pivot line, and it was used as resistance. So part of the trading methodology with pivots and keeping the pivot line in mind. So when price closes, and in this case closes below the pivot line, we're looking to go short. If price closes above, we're looking to go long. So basically a pivot line is the line in the sand to whether or not to go short or long. And because I'm a counter trend, trader, I like to wait for price to go down to these S1, S2, or S3 levels to look for potential reversals. But if you're a trend trader, you could be quickly playing this to those S1 or S23 levels. Like we saw this close on Monday. You could have sold short because we broke previous day's lows of 224.34. It's not the style I want to use. Let's do this one. Shift. Here we go. So once we broke these lows, that was the go to go short. And if you drew the fibs of just that first 15-minute candle, you go short, you aim for the 618, or in this case, the 100% line. It's hard to see. Got really close to it too. I mean, like reversing to the tick. But right there at 218.60. So if you did a short, let's say you didn't get a perfect short entry, but let's just say you got in right there. You could put your stop maybe up there. Looks like it seems pretty far away. Aim for the 100. That's 1.58. That's only because the 15-minute candle, we're on the 15-minute. Easily you could have used previous candles. Yeah, so if you want to optimize it, right, you got in somewhere down here to go short, you could have used the second candle. That was a 3.3 ratio trade. If you aimed for the 618 right there, that is a 2.2 trade, right? So the idea of going down to the smaller time frames is to optimize your entries. So you look for bigger time frames for the trend and direction. You drill down to the 5-minute, 1-minute, or even 15-second. On my book, to look for entries and exits. And if you had the EMAs on, right, you could see how price Opened up above the 50 and 200, rejected it. Obvious sign to continue in that direction because the 50 EMA was crossing below the 200. If you turn on the volume profile, this was Monday's action. We see Tuesdays. Pretty much stayed in the range of Monday. It was consolidated, and then pretty much price was just waiting for earnings that happened yesterday. Or was it this morning? I'm losing track of the days. Yeah, so this morning. Actually, they had their earnings yesterday after market. So this is just the reaction the morning after. I stand corrected. Yeah, so we had all this price action once earnings was released yesterday after the market. We're getting the price reaction now. So once again, looking at point of control, magnet for price, right? So these are 5-minute bars. If you were looking to go short today, right, and if you waited for confirmation, you could have easily have looked at either the 5-minute or 1-minute chart. We opened outside of yesterday's value. We hit point of control. Price sold off and hit Tuesday's point of control. Or actually, never mind. Price opened up at Tuesday's point of control and then went up to yesterday's point of control. So once again, these are one of these trades to just repeat. And even if you're just like, let's say a one-trick pony, there's only one way of trading that you did or used. Right there, you're just looking for retracements back to point of controls from previous days. And that was a $4.30 gain, 440. And once we got a breakdown of that, going back to point of control or today's open. Yeah, so currently in a tight range. I believe it's lunchtime in New York. I forgot to turn on my sessions indicator. Yes, currently lunchtime. Price is currently consolidating with low volume. So let's see what the market makers and big players want to do. If they want to break out of this range that has been happening since 7:20 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, so this is pretty much the range. We're going to see if, what they want to do. We are below the 200 EMA. Price is below the 50 EMA. We have to see whether or not price wants to go lower. And those targets, 216. And I mentioned right before we drill down to the smaller time frames, on the bigger time frame, if you're looking to go long, 215 would be a good area to go long for a swing trade, in my opinion. Not financial advice. Okay, so that pretty much covers Nvidia. I covered Tesla, Bitcoin, Nvidia, a little bit of hype only because that is currently moving up today. And if you like what I do, if you want to see more, if you want to see some tickers for me to follow, I'm taking requests. Feel free to comment. Once again, if you're catching up with the live stream, and if you happen to be watching this the recorded version of this stream, feel free to use the Gemini summarize, feature, and you'll be able to jump from chapter to chapter that way to jump from the topics. Okay, I'll leave it at Tesla here. I'll be right back. Take a quick break. Okay, we're back. I haven't even looked at SPY, so let's look at SPY for all you SPY lovers out there. Maybe not even SPY, maybe even the E-minis. I know everyone likes to look at futures.
And futures, yes.
Oh. There we go. All right, so we're going to look at Asian, London, and then going into New York session here. Maybe not the 1 minute. So let's just quickly narrate these levels here, narrate the story. So this is a 15-minute chart. So pretty much yesterday's price action. Let's just start with Asia. So with Asia session, price tapped the 200 EMA on the 15-minute chart. Use that as support. Crossed back above the 50 EMA. And then found its way back at previous day's point of control. Once again, volume profile, trade ideas here. From one extreme, and in this case was the 200 EMA to the point of control. And if you had the margin to hold this, that was 31 points. How much is ES per point? I believe it's 50. 31 times 50. That was a $1,550 move during the Asian session. So if you're someone like me who has a 9 to 5 right after you get out of work, I'm located in the West Coast, so I go for Pacific Standard Time. Could have easily made this trade if you were watching the ES futures, or it could have been micro, right? So depending on your account size and risk tolerance. So price went to the point of control, hit value area high, which was previous day's high during the New York session. And then right at the beginning of London, it pulled back to and near the 50 EMA. And what I'm going to do here actually is turn on our developing point of control. Let me change the settings of these. Okay, here we go. So the dotted and dashed lines are the developing value area point of control. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah, got to do this. So let me turn off the volume profile very quickly. We're going to do some fib work here. If you planned on trading the London session, just be aware where price is relative to the 50 EMA on the 15-minute chart. And that's the time frame I like to use to try to get a general idea of the day's trend. I'm going to do some fib work here. I'm going to draw the high and low of Asian session. And you can't make this up, because this is the reason why I use Fibonacci extensions and drawings. London peaked near the 618 of Asian's session, high-low. And let me just reverse this Fibonacci swing. So from Asian sessions high-low, we were given these levels. So if you could train your eyes to look at these Fibonacci levels as well as the EMAs in the background, right? We see that right here was the 50-618 zone, which would have been a strong buy to go long. So if you were looking at E-mini futures during Asian and a little bit before London, saw price hit the 125 level of Asian session Fibonacci extension, quickly went back to the 50 EMA right before London opened, moved up, pulled back to the 50, and reversed from the 618 level. You can't make that up. And then eventually went to the 618 zone right there. So potential, trades to take here based on Fibonacci. Drawing your Fibonacci tool from swing low to swing high using the Asian session. So definitely, if you trade London session, you need to be aware of these Asian session levels. It kind of gives you an idea as to where London can take this. I'm not a, harmonic trader, as they call it, and there are some chart pattern tools here, but I can't help but deny, to see, this. I'm not sure if this is a true cipher or a butterfly. I know this happens a lot with the E-minis and futures, but let's take a look at that. This might be a textbook harmonic pattern. But yeah, I only see that after the fact. But when you see price movement in these ways, right, it reacts to, once again, the Fibonacci extension sell zone, the 50 EMA, the 618 zone of previous session. Use that to bounce, to bounce off of. Went to the 618. If you didn't ride this long, you could have at least, not financial advice, sold this to go short. And then after the London session, the market took it back down to this 200 EMA. I use volume candles so you can see the width of the candle, like basically how wide it is, signifies how much volume occurred during that candle bar. Obviously, this is New York Open, so there's a lot of volume coming in, much wider than Asian and London session. All right, so let's draw. We basically have patterns within patterns here, and that's what's kind of like the neat thing with doing TA. One, you could clear all these drawings from the Asian session, but to really put into context for New York session, you would, leave the Asian session levels here just so you're aware of those levels. But then I would draw the London session to prepare for New York. And as you can see, this Fibonacci buy zone was an area to go long. Going into New York, right? Just be aware that this is a Fibonacci potential buy zone, potential reversals. And in this case, it was a retest of Asian lows, Asian session lows. And let's actually drill down to a much smaller time frame to look at the New York session. So once we knew, let's see, even before, let's take a step back. So even before New York Open, if you're trading this, pre-market, like 4 a.m. in the morning Pacific Standard Time, this happens to be an 800 EMA, so that could have been an area to go long. In this case, based on the London session's high-low, we knew that this was a Fibonacci extension buy zone beginning at 714.75. Or let me redraw that because it's not accurate. There you go. So 714.75 was an early buy. And if you sniped it and you went in long here, and you could use previous structure as a stop. Like let's say if you're willing to risk 4 points, and then your target was the 200 EMA. That was a 5-to-1 trade. Easy. Or you could retest London lows. If you went long and you retested London lows, that was a 2.81, close to a 3. Oh, hold on, is that the London low? Right there. 2.88 risk to reward if you were buying this dip. Now, right at the beginning of New York session, right, we knew that this was a zone once again. And I'm just going to remove that hypothetical trade.
Wait, so that's like early?
Yeah, this is like at 3:30 our time. 3:25 to 6.
That's a little early.
Yeah.
Who would be trading that?
Anyone who is a night owl. Let's just say you're someone who works a night shift or an evening shift and you come home late from work. You're still up. So might as well trade. You could be trading like London session, and then you sleep obviously during during the day, right? I mean, that's what's great about the E-minis and futures, that it's pretty much almost 24/7. I think it's 23/6 to be exact. Could be 24/6. No, 23/6, I believe. Okay, so now keeping in mind where the EMAs are on the 5-minute chart, we knew that it was resisting the 200 EMA, and eventually the 50 EMA caught up and did a crossover, and price still stayed below these two EMAs. Went lower back into the Fibonacci extension sell zone. If we had to split hairs and draw the Fibonacci extensions before the market, so literally 1 hour before the market, I would have drawn these fibs. And then you have a confluence of multiple extension buy zones. So from London session to 1 hour before New York session, this was an area to go long. I'm going to drill onto the 1-minute chart so it's easier to see. So you basically have a confluence of 2 Fibonacci extension sell zones based on some swings, staying below the EMAs of what we saw earlier on the 5-minute chart. And this was an easy area to go long. You could have been scalping this baby right here. So like either long here, go back to the 50 EMA for 8 points. You know, another retest, go long, that's 4 points. Went down here, you know, touch the 50 EMA, another 8.75 points. Another final touch, 9.75. And if you aim for the 200 on the 1-minute chart, that's 16.75 points. Or you could have just rode it higher and moved your stop because price was basically above the 50 EMA. So just looking at the EMAs now, this was a strong candle breaking above the 50 EMA. So the idea was to wait for price to pull back. Very little pullback. Price found itself above the 200, rode this 9 EMA in yellow, and you could have just went long there for an opening range breakout trade. So this was the high of the morning. Oh no, we got a lot going on now. Let me do it this way. This was pretty much a textbook opening range breakout. Right, so this is the opening range from New York Open. And we knew that price was already in a Fibonacci extension sell zones once it was like moving beyond the opening range low. And then once price broke out, easily could have rode it higher. And if you're an opening range breakout trader, the close of these candles, you could have went long. Let's turn on volume profile. So what happened was we found ourselves at value area low down here. And once again, these dashed white lines was the developing volume value area low, and up here value area high, and the developing point of control in orange, the dotted oranges, orange lines right there. And let me just quickly remove the AM session indicator right there. So it was in using a volume profile perspective, getting in long here because we knew that there was a Fibonacci extension buy zone, right? So from value area low to value area high. That was 21 points. And if we got in on that pullback after that opening range breakout, if you got in here and then you rode it, okay, I'm just gonna have to draw it, even though it's gonna be messy. So this 200 line right there. So if you went long here from that pullback of the opening range breakout, and then you aimed for the 100 line, and that's kind of like what happened here at Wicked. It's 12.75 points. Right. So the idea behind trading volume profile is that you get in outside of value and you trade back into it. In this case, if you're a trend trading opening range breakout trader, you know, you ride this to go to the Fibonacci extensions or this 800 EMA that I have here. And this is in hindsight, of course. We knew that this was a Fibonacci extension sell zone based on opening range, where we're looking for potential shorts. And this looks like a double top. I wonder what yeah. So as you can see, RSI had already crossed over. And then we see this second high for a double top. It looks like equal. I know it's hard to see if you're looking at a vertical short, but let me zoom in. So we basically had a double top right here. One top, second top in a Fibonacci extension sell zone. So basically you had to change gears and start looking for shorts when we knew that we were in this take profit zone to go short. The stochastics already rolled over. This was like basically the double top roll over. RSI already crossed. So you're looking for momentum to go lower, which it did. Could have aimed for the point of control once again. So if you sold short from the Fibonacci extension, put a stop. Let's just say you sold short there. Let's say you didn't get a perfect entry and you put out previous highs and you aim for point of control. That was a 1.75. Easily you could optimize it. This was a Gamwick right here that kind of took out that candle. So if you had a stop right there, yeah, be sure to manage your stops whenever you are in profit, or if you want to protect any gains, definitely manage your stops. Figure out what those parameters are for yourself based on your risk tolerance. Now, there's a lot going on here, but it does look like price just meandered in the value area, also in the opening range of today. This was basically a scalper's dream today. You know, with all those examples that it provided, that was easily like on average 8 points per move. And that was more than, let's say, that was more than 5 times. Let's just say you took 5 trades using ES, averaging about 8 points. 40 points. 40 points times 50. Yeah, $2,000 one contract. If you had the capital to trade the E-mini futures. So that was, I don't know, about average of 8 points per trade. It was more than 5, probably 6 trades. But let's just do 5. So if you took 5 trades averaging 8 points, 40 points times 50, that was $2,000, and you're done for the day. But yeah, once again, this is a good consolidation day to just trade in and out of value area, volume profile, in and out of the Fibonacci extension buy zones and sell zones as drawn here as we went through it step by step since Asian session. If this is something you want me to track moving forward with E-mini futures or even SPY, feel free to leave a comment and I could make this a regular thing because there's plenty of gains to be made here based on my analysis. Like and subscribe if you want to follow the channel. I will be streaming tomorrow, so I'll catch you tomorrow. I do have a planned short once again this weekend to prepare for Tesla's levels for the upcoming week. Maybe I'll do SPY or E-mini futures depending on the how I feel, if I have enough time to be able to do another short. But I'm wondering if that could potentially get us more followers or likes, right, to grow the channel. So yeah, if you're watching this and you're watching the recorded version of this stream, like I said earlier, click on the summarize or the AI button. I know it's a star symbol on YouTube to summarize the content and to look for the chapters. So you could quickly jump from one talking point to another. It'll be easier that way to rather watch through the whole stream itself. But thanks for the support. Like and subscribe. We'll be on tomorrow and have a great day.